Hello everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial, and today we are painting the brand new, the fantastic Exalted Eightbound, the new Elite's Choice 4, the World Eaters. These are the exalted versions of the kit rather than just your regular old 8-bound, because they look cooler and they've got demon-y things going on, and we all know how I feel about demons. They've been sent to me early by Games Workshop to build up and paint for all of you, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. So, massive thank you to them, and with all that out of the way, what we're going to do is we're going to jump in and start painting them. They've been primed in Wraithbone, and the colour we're going to be using first is Baal Red. So, what we're going to do is we're going to basically focus on all of the generic details, so most of the armour and the metallics, and then we're going to do 3 exciting skin recipes for these demons. So we're going to start work on all of those generic details. And as mentioned, we're going to be using Baal Red first of all. And we're going to apply this over the top of all of the armour. And because these are the demon-y fellows, there's not tons of armour here. One thing to be very careful of is when you get to doing the backpacks. The backpacks are being held on, or at least held together, by demon-y stuff. So do just be careful, because the majority of it is a flesh colour. But of course, you've got your box art in front of you, or your product photography, you already know that. For now, we're just going to go all over and get this Baal Red on. So with that Baal Red all applied, as you can see, what we're now going to do is we're going to take a roughly 2-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Flesh Tearers Red, and we're going to apply this over the top. Just like this. So with that done, our red armour is now Warhipster battle ready for now. So what we're going to do is move on to the next colour. And this might surprise some of you. What we're going to do next is we're going to take some Bugman's Glow. And we're going to use this to paint in areas such as the kind of fleshy parts of the backpack. We're going to use this to paint in areas like any kind of cables and things. You can see that this one just down here. I'm going to use this in between the joints of the armour. I'm going to do this across all 3. And so with that Bugman's Glow applied to all of these areas, what we're then going to do is take some Magos Purple and we're going to apply this over the top. So with that done, you should have some pretty cool looking inflamed sort of flesh. Now I know I said at the beginning in the video we were going to do everything and then do all the flesh recipes, but actually because there's so many intrinsic details all over these skin parts, that rather than going back and forth using the same paints over and over again, like Black Legion for example, which we are going to be using a bit later, I figured we would do the skin recipes now because it will make painting a little bit easier. So that's exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to start off with this guy just here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some Darkoath Flesh and we're going to apply this over all of his flesh. I'm just going to start down here at the foot. I'm going to get this all over. Just like this. I mean, the feet are a prime example on this guy. It's got those black talons. But doing all the black details and then coming back later to do all the black talons with the same colours of paint just didn't feel right to me. So with that Darkoath Flesh applied, we're just going to pop him to one side for a moment whilst he dries, and we're going to work on this guy next, and the colour we're going to be using for him is Guilliman Flesh. And we're just going to get this all over his skin, except his demon hand. And it's this bit here. And so with that Guilliman Flesh all applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Garaghak Sewer. And very similarly to our previous guy, we're going to apply this over the top of all of his skin. What we're going to do is we're going to avoid his demon hand. So with that done, we've got the makings of our first 3 flesh recipes, and we're going to continue doing these until they're at a really good stage. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some Berserker Bloodshade, and we're going to use this to shade all of our kind of demony parts. And, well, on 2 of them, we're going to go all over. So, for example, on this guy, we're going to use the Berserker Bloodshade all over the top of his feet, but we don't need to do it over really his arms or anything, but we can do it over his face. On this guy, we're going to go all over, including the demon hand, and on this guy, we're going to go all over, including the demon hand. So, we'll start with this one. Taking that Berserker Bloodshade, we're going to pop this all over the top of his feet. Like that. And like that. Similarly, over the top of his face. like that sort of thing. Then on our other two guys, but for the sake of time, we're going to just focus on this one. We're just going to take that Berserker Bloodshade and we're going to go all over all of his flesh. So we'll go right in there at the tummy, like that, over the top of the hand, like that sort of thing. And we're just going to keep going until all of his flesh is shaded with Berserker Bloodshade. So with that Berserker Bloodshade all applied to all of those areas, this guy, his skin is now finished for the moment, so we can pop him to one side. Whereas for these two, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Reikland Fleshshade. Now, for the Reikland Fleshshade, what we're going to do is on this guy, is we're going to apply this over the top of his arms. Just to add a little bit of extra colour in there. Like that. We can add it over his chest and things as well if you want to. Just add a little bit of extra colour in various places. We're just going to get this all over his arms for sure. Like that. And like for example, could add a little bit of it just here. Like that. Could add some in here. Just like that sort of thing. Whereas on this guy, what we're going to do is we're going to use this Reikland Fleshshade over the top of his demon hand. Like this. Just to add a little bit more colour in there. And then we've got one more colour to apply to this guy. So our last colour to apply to this guy is going to be some Gore-Grunta Fur. I'm going to use this over the top of his skin, but we're going to do a little bit of blending. So we're going to take that Gore-Grunta Fur on our brush, and we're just going to start here on the arm. So we're going to apply this like this. We're going to come down to around about there, but we can just cover it over the whole thing. We're then going to wash the brush, and then we're just going to smooth out that transition. Like that. We're also going to apply this over the top of his sort of neck and chest. And we're going to go over the top of his face, but then similarly around his face. So we just get this over the top. Like that. And then we wash the brush. And then we just lift off with a clean brush most of that paint around his facial features. like that sort of thing. And then all those colours working together in concert are going to give us this really lovely colour. So with that done, we've now got 3 awesome looking fleshes across all 3 of our guys. So what we're going to do now is move on. We're not going to do any highlights just yet. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to continue with the base coat train. Now, the colour we're going to be using next is Black Legion. I'm going to be applying this over a lot of details. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this to pick out areas such as the tabards that they've got. We're going to use this to pick out some, but not all of the spikes. We're looking for kind of really large ones, mostly around the shoulders. We're going to use this to pick out any of the kind of remaining smooth cables that aren't the fleshy ones that we've done already. And we're going to use this to pick out, well, just various things that you want to pick out, such as weapon casings. So like in this instance just here, we've got this little strip of it that we want to be black, like that, and so on and so forth. So just have the box art in front of you, all the product photography, and just take your time. Make your way around the model. So with all of that Black Legion applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade and we're going to apply this over the top of the soft wraps on their weapons. So with that done, what we are now going to do is take some thinned down Runelord Brass and we're going to apply this over the top of all of our trim and decoration and all of the areas that we want to be brass. Now there's lots and lots of this to do, so just have the box art in front of you. Take your time, make sure you get it all. So with all of that Runelord Brass applied, we then take some thinned down Iron Warriors and we apply this to all of our remaining metallic details. So this is the areas on the weapons that we haven't done, the various little plugs and things like that scattered about. So with all of our metallics now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Aggaros Dunes and we're going to apply this to all of the kind of remaining teeth. So this one's the best one to demonstrate this on. So we're going to apply this over the top of all these teeth around the chest. And we're going to apply them over the top of the hood, for lack of a better word. I'm not going to do this over the top of the skulls. It's going to be a slightly different colour. And so with that Aggaros Dunes applied, we then take some Skeleton Horde. And we use this over the top of the skulls. And so with those skulls done, we just have one last base coat to apply, and that's going to be some Dark Angel's Green. And we're going to be applying this over the top of our helmet up here on the trophy. So with that done, all of our base coats are now applied to the Exalted Eightbound, and they're looking pretty fab. However, it's now time to add some shades to take them even further. And the first one we're going to add is Agrax Earthshade. And we're going to be applying this over the top of a couple of different areas. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply this over the top of the Aggaros Dunes. We want that to be a little bit darker. We're going to apply this over the top of the Runelord Brassy areas as well. We want these guys to not have that kind of clean brass. They're a little bit, well, they're a little bit demony. They don't deserve nice things. And what we're also going to do is we're going to apply this over the top of any of the black horns as well. So with that Agrax Earthshade applied, we've just got one more shade to do, and that is going to be some Nuln Oil. I'm going to apply this over the remaining black details, so areas like those tabards and things like that, and we're going to be applying this over the top of the silver. Just like this. So with that done, all of our Exalted Eightbound are now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready, and they're already looking pretty fantastic. However, we're not going to leave them there. No, we're going to take them to the next level, and we're going to do this by adding some highlights. Now the first one we're going to add is Wild Rider Red. I'm just going to start from the beginning once more. And we're going to be using this Wild Rider Red to highlight all of our red armor. Now there's not tons and tons of edges on these guys, but we do have to just bear in mind that there are these ones on the actual legs and stuff. Like that. Which you just want to watch out for. Just like this. So with that Wild Rider Red all applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Cadian Fleshtone, and we're going to apply this to the sharpest points of the red. Like this, as a sort of spot highlight. Like that. What we're also going to do with the Cadian Fleshtone is we're going to use this to highlight the fleshy backpacks. And cables. So with that done, you should have some pretty cool armor and some pretty cool looking backpacks. So what we're going to do is move on now to the next color, which is going to be all of the black details. And the color we're going to be using to highlight these first is Dawnstone. And we're going to be doing this over all of our black details. So I'm just going to take a small amount of this on the brush and start picking out all those edges. All those cables, tabards, claws. All the good stuff. So with that Dawnstone all applied, what we then do is we take some Administratum Grey and we're going to apply this to the sharpest points. On all of our black details. So with all of those black highlights applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Screaming Skull and we're going to use this to highlight all of our teeth and claws and spikes and things. We're not going to use this to highlight the skulls because they're already bright enough. But these areas we're absolutely going to highlight. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Canoptek Alloy and we're going to use this to highlight all of the brass. So with that Canoptek Alloy all applied, these guys have taken a huge leap forward. They're looking very, very close to being finished, and they are, to be fair. We have one more metallic highlight to do, and then we've got a few unique bits and pieces in terms of the flesh and stuff. So the highlight that we're going to be applying next is some thinned down Ironbreaker. I'm going to be using this over the top of all of the silver. We're just going to be picking out the edges here. Nothing particularly fancy. Just to make those weapons look proper wicked. So with that done, all of the details apart from all of their flesh and, well, the helmet on this guy's helmet, no, backpack, not the helmet on his helmet, the helmet on his backpack, these guys are now pretty much done, and I think you'll agree they're looking absolutely amazing. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish off all those flesh recipes, and we're going to take it one by one. So we're going to start with the one that we've been focusing on for most of this video, and the colour we're going to be using for this is Ungor Flesh, and we're going to be using this to highlight all of his skin. Just picking out areas like the knuckles, the edges of muscles, any veins. And we're also going to use the Ungor Flesh over the top of his face as well. Just picking out the facial features. Like this. So with that Ungor Flesh applied, we're then going to take some Flayed One Flesh and we're going to apply this to the sharpest parts of his skin. So we're going to pick out areas such as tips of his knuckles. Just there like that. These little toe knuckles, for lack of a better word. Like so. We're going to pick out the scars. And veins and things like that. And then similarly on the face, I'm going to pick out the sharpest points. Just like that. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Black Legion and we're going to apply this over his mouth and teeth. Like that. And we're going to apply this over his eyes as well. So with that Black Legion applied, we then take a very diddy amount of Screaming Skull and we're going to use this to pick out the teeth, but not the eyes. So with that Screaming Skull applied, we then take a really small amount of Pink Horror. We use this to pick out his tongue, like that. And so with that Pink Horror applied, we then take a very tiny amount of Flash Gitz Yellow. I'm going to add this over the top of the eyeballs, just leaving a little bit of black in there. Just like that sort of thing. So with that done, this guy's flesh and face are now finished, so we can pop him to one side. It's just got that helmet left to do, but we need to finish off the other two before we do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to this guy, the one that we originally did with, I want to say Guilliman Flesh, can't remember now. Anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to take some thinned down Flayed One Flesh, and we're going to use this to pick out all of his features. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Pallid Wych Flesh. I'm going to use this to highlight the demon hand. So with that Pallid Wych Flesh applied, we're just going to finish off his face in the same way as we did on the first one. Black Legion over the mouth and the eyes, Screaming Skull for the teeth, Pink Horror for the tongue, and Flash Gitz Yellow over the top of the eyes. And this is going to be the same across all three of them. So if you want to, you can do the third one now as well. So with that done, we've got two finished. So we're going to move on to the last one, this gentleman. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Skrag Brown. I'm going to use this to pick out his facial features. You don't need too much on the brush here. I'm going to use this to highlight his muscles as well. So with that Skrag Brown applied, we then take a teeny tiny amount of Deathclaw Brown. We apply this to the sharpest points on his face. And with that Deathclaw Brown applied, we then take some Flayed One Flesh. I'm going to use this to highlight his demon hand. And then after that, we're going to finish off his face in exactly the same way as the other two. Using Black Legion, Screamer Pink, no, the other one, Pink Horror, and Flash Gitz Yellow, and Screaming Skull. So with that done, our Exalted Eightbound are pretty much finished. The only thing left to do is that Dark Angel's helmet up the top there. So that's what we're going to do. But these two, you can pop to one side, ready for basing. Fantastic. So on that Dark Angel's helmet, we're only going to do a couple of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some Flesh Tearers Red first of all. I'm just going to drop this over the top of the eye lenses. Just like that. So with that Flesh Tearers Red applied, we then take some Moot Green, and we're just going to use this as a little spot highlight here. We're not going to do full highlights. We just want to pick out the sharpest edges and any battle damage. And with that Moot Green applied, we then take a tiny amount of Wild Rider Red, and we use this as our highlight on the eye lens just here, but we don't need to do it on the other one because it's all cracked and broken. Like that. And finally, just to finish him off, we're going to take some Iron Warriors, and we're just going to apply this over the seals. Right, this is a little highlight. We don't need to shade it or anything because the Dark Angel's green is already applying more than enough depth. You just want to avoid the recesses. And you're golden, like that.
And so, with their bases now complete, the Exalted Eightbound are now finished. And these guys are absolutely mean on the tabletop. I've just found this out by watching all the videos that have come out today as I'm editing them. And I'm really excited to use these guys, and I'm probably going to pick up 2 or 3 more boxes at some point. Maybe we'll do some of the regular 8-bound as well. Fantastic little kit, really like them. Lots of character, lots of detail. It makes them absolutely pop and stand aside from the rest of the range. Really, really impressed with this. And they look great.
If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/Warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/Warhipster. Alternatively, you could become a YouTube member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, just like these amazing, wonderful people have done. And if you really like this video or you just want to shoot me some support, you can click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.